Hey, welcome to episode 33 of Six Pack Cinema, and it's our first episode of our mini-series. We are reviewing The Terror on AMC, so if you haven't seen it, stop listening, go watch the first episode, the first two episodes, because they combine them together, and come back and hear our thoughts on them. So let's start with that, our thoughts. Jimmy, what did you think of episodes 1 and 2?
I want to say first, I'm very excited to do this with you and do like a TV show because you can dig into it so much more, break down the characters, the character development. I like TV more than I like movies. Not that I don't like movies at all, but I just love TV series.
Oh yeah, especially miniseries too, where they have their whole story planned out and they don't have to worry about what if we get picked up and have to keep going.
Yep, and those are the new norm now. Anthologies are all over the place. I was the idea, the general concept of this show has piqued my interest so much because I had no idea this happened, this existed. Like not just like this specific case, because it's a true case in history, just in general, exploring the Arctic with like the Royal Navy. That concept never entered my brain. Like I never even saw pictures. I scan a lot of random shit on the internet. I never knew that this whole idea existed. And it's crazy to me. So I'm like super excited once it got going. And I was like, oh, okay, they get stuck episode 1. The rest of this is going to be like surviving and what happens out there when you're deserted. I'm like, this is incredibly interesting. So not even like a specific plot point or character, just the whole general concept of this is cool because I like history, and this is something that's been untapped in my brain.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that it started out with that flash forward of people looking for them and the Eskimo just being like, they're dead. They're gone. They said, don't come look for us. So, like, you know not to get attached to these characters, but the acting is so good. I by the end of the first episode, I was like, fuck, I like these guys, and it's going to be a pain to watch them die off one by one.
It's cool that they opened up with that title slate like no one survived. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What?
Well, and in the real life story, they just found the ships.
I read that like in
2016.
16. Yeah, I read that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Whole thing's insane. I don't know where we want to start. You want to do like we can talk characters first, general plot points. I don't know. What do you want to do? How do you want to?
I think we should break down the 4 main characters.
Yeah. Okay.
At first, so that people know who we're talking about, and then from there we can kind of branch out.
It's hard to pick up on names, especially new shows. This doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of characters, so it should be easier to pick up on names. But also, you and I are big subtitle guys. So anyone listening, if you would rather know places and names, just put the subtitles on because you read them. And once you read them, you're like, oh, that's them. Like I know names of people in Game of Thrones, and I feel like no one knows names of people in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I mentioned characters like that I like on Game of Thrones, and people are like, who's that? I'm like, the midget. I like Tyrion.
Yeah, this is just subtitles are the best.
Yeah.
So. The main guy, actually, I don't think this is the main character of the show, but he's the head of all the ships. There's 2 ships right now going. And if you watch the first 2 episodes and you didn't quite understand what's happening, there are 2 ships from the Royal Navy on what's supposed to be a 3-year mission, I believe, trying to explore or break through the Northwest Passage.
Yes, their goal was to find a passage through the Arctic to North America to cut down travel time so that ship routes can go through it and trade would increase and you cut out like a year of traveling.
Yeah. Should have just waited for airplanes and then they wouldn't have had to do this.
Well, I don't think they saw those coming.
So there's 2 ships. The ships are named the Erebus. I don't know how you pronounce it. Erebus. And the other one's named the Terror, which is really convenient when you're writing a TV show and you want to name your, like if this TV show was called The Erebus, no one would care or watch it, but it's called The Terror. And the way they did the previews, everyone thinks it's a horror shit. Like I bet there was so many people that tuned in thinking it was going to be a horror show, like American Horror Story or something. And it's like a history story.
I bet you by the end of the series, people still consider it a horror.
I
Just from like
yeah.
desperation, not anything like zombies or bullshit like that, but just from desperation and the horrors that they go through to survive.
Okay, I agree. But you have that is a really convenient ship name that they get the name
Oh,
of the TV show, The Terror.
And I'd still think they would call it something like that or something similar, even if the boat's name wasn't that.
Yeah, it's true. So the Erebus has John Franklin. He's the older one with brown hair and the face that looks like it's trying to run off his body, like
He looks
downward.
like a wax figurine that was left out for just slightly too long.
Yeah, yeah. His face is definitely melting. He is the commander of the whole expedition, so he's actually in charge of the whole thing. And he, in the first episode, has the biggest fuck up because the second biggest character, Francis Crozier, he's on the Terror. He's a bit younger, smarter, wiser, and warns them of this. He's like, we need to ditch. We just need to go find land, leave the ships. They'll get stuck in the ice. We'll go be safe, and then we'll come back to the ships when it unfreezes, right? That was his plan, right?
Well, no, he wanted to turn west, I think it was, or maybe east, and then go find like just a harbor, not like an actual built-up harbor, but just an inlet where they'll be sheltered from the storm a little bit more. And he's like, yeah, we'll hate each other, and in 6 months we'll like be tired of each other, but it'll hopefully be warmer by then, and we can come back, and we won't get stuck, frozen in the middle, like not around any supplies or like land.
Yeah. And they said no, because there's this other guy underneath John Franklin, the melting face guy, named, what's his name? I wrote down the actor's name.
Fitzjames.
John Franklin, Francis Crozier, and Fitzjames. Too many F's on this expedition.
Well, that's the real life name, so you can't really change that.
It's too many. But Fitzjames is a pompous asshole, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he is basically the bad. Like if John Franklin is a person and he's got a good angel on one side of his head and the devil on the other, like telling him what to do, those are the two guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Fitzjames is the bad guy. Well, not the bad guy, but he's the like bad advice guy.
He's ignorant because he hasn't seen it. Like there was the scene where Crozier was trying to say, like, this place wants to hurt us. And he was like, oh, don't be so mystical or whatever. And he slammed his fist down. He was like, only 3 of us here are veteran Arctic explorers.
Yeah.
Basically telling Fitzjames, you don't know shit.
I love that scene too, because Fitzjames was like, we have the most advanced ships in the fleet. And he just slams his hand down. He's like, there will be no melodrama. You do not understand that even technology gives way to nature. Yeah,
it was a good scene, because they at the beginning they kind of played Francis Crozier as a bit of a kind of like a fool, like oh, he's just going to come here and ramble, and no, that was Fitzjames. Fitzjames rambles and just tells the same stories and all that over and over again.
Well, and he is, I know, like the real life person was like a war hero too. So he's fought in wars. Like he thinks he's experienced, but he has never been to the Arctic. So he's out of his element and doesn't even realize it. And he just went on this expedition for the glory to say, yeah, I was one of the first people to ever cross through the Arctic.
It's crazy that we are like crazy to be fighting nature in the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you do
that? I feel like there's nothing like that in the world now. Besides astronauts.
There's got to be people in the Arctic still doing crazy shit. Like this, I feel like this can still happen up there to an extent.
To an extent, yes. But I also feel like our ships are just so much better now that it'll never be like this. They're on wooden boats.
Yeah. But still, like if you're stranded in the Arctic, you're stranded in the Arctic now, 100 years ago, 100 years from now.
That's true.
It's never going to be.
Maybe not 100 years from now. Global warming.
Yeah. The fourth character, and this is Harry Goodser, and he's the surgeon with the mutton chops. So if you need physical descriptions, mutton chop surgeon. He's the one that goes with them. I like this character because every show needs, like when you're doing a war movie or any movie that's like very heavy into one place or area, you need a newbie that's going to ask all the questions that the audience is wondering.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like he's a tool because he is the audience. Like he never
He's
been to
the audience surrogate.
Yeah, yes. He's looking around with wide eyes, so we get to like he's us.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. All right. So those are the 4 main characters, at least introduced so far. Let's start at the beginning. Episode 1. I was hooked immediately, obviously, but when the first guy starts spitting up blood randomly, I was like, well, this isn't good. The first guy who's gonna die, his name is David. Fuck.
I liked that. And has that gone anywhere? There's a sickness about like something's poisoned in the water or something. Is what that seems like.
Yeah, that hasn't been fully like revealed yet.
Oh, okay. But because
like
like
there's something wrong with at least one crew member, and if it's wrong with one person and it wasn't scurvy, they have no idea what it is or how to treat it.
And they're all eating and drinking the same shit, so that's not good. I liked when they did the little banter, that crew about
the dog.
The dog, yeah. What rank is the dog?
Yes.
It sounded like good, like wartime banter.
Yeah, that felt exactly how I would imagine random lower soldiers would just be talking in the mess hall.
Yeah. And then I think the only other really, besides the scene we called when they had the meeting and they were yelling about the plans and they were debating, like we just talked about that scene. The other notable scene from the first episode is when a man goes overboard and he freezes and they leave him there. And then the propeller gets stuck at the ice. So they was it the surgeon that they sent down?
I thought it was.
Yeah, but I thought
it
so
doesn't
too,
make sense, but the actor looks just like him.
Yeah. I thought that was a wild scene because he to refresh your memory, he goes down in like a crazy ass suit and is poking at the propeller to get the ice unstuck and turns around and sees his friend who just drowned.
Yeah, the body just floating there. And how it was shot and everything, it was just so eerie and peaceful at the same time.
I had to go back and be like, was that an animal? What was that? And then I was like, oh, it's his body. And he knew that guy. So that's like, they made a point where
like he tried to jump into the water to save him. It was clearly a good friend.
Yeah, and they were like, it's just a soldier. And he was like, no, that was my friend who dropped his name.
Like Jimmy Olsen or something like that. Well, that's not it. That's a Superman character.
Yeah. So that was a really cool scene and showed like just like they're so out of their element. I think that was the point of that scene. Like, I don't know.
Even the commander being like, you're the first person to ever do this. Even the Eskimos would never go under the water like this because they don't have a way to survive. Yeah. You are a true pioneer.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think there was much more notable scenes in the second episode. So the first episode ends that they're stuck on the ice, and then that goes into the second episode, which has like their plan is he wakes up and he's just like, oh shit, okay, we're snowed in. This is what everyone signed up for. So keep spirits high. Basically, like knows they're gonna die, and the plan is to.
Well, I don't think they know they're gonna die yet. He's probably like, well, I fucked up, but we'll just last until like spring and the ice will break up again and we'll get going then.
Yeah, but it's crazy that the plan, like this is where it's just wild. Like I never knew anything about this. Just camp up on the ice and then they all walked a certain direction to try and find land.
I think it was to find land and to see where the ice where the pack stopped being the pack and it was more open water so that they could start placing charges in that direction, to kind of break up the ice so that they could get moving.
And no one finds any. And we get to go with another really great name. The guy's name that leads this group of men is Gore. That's his last name. Gore.
Yes.
So they named the episode Gore. So that's fitting with the Terror. And then second episode's name is Gore. And you're like, oh, it's going to be gory. Like, no. What is kind of gory? Because Gore dies in a gory way.
Yes. By being killed by a super bear?
Yeah, I also went back and slowed that down. I was like, that was a big bear, but I think it was supposed to be just a
Well,
normal bear, right?
no. So this is a little bit of backstory on the book. It's historical fiction because nobody really knows what happened to these people. And so there is some, they never explain if it's just a polar bear or if it's something else that's hunting them. You never know. And I like the way they shot it. Like you could look at that and you're like, oh, that was just a big bear, or it could be a mystical animal. And at the beginning of the first episode, the Eskimo was like, oh, the Tunuk was following them, which
Yeah.
you don't know if that's just a polar bear or some god they worship.
I'm gonna go with it was just a big bear because I like that better.
Okay.
Before the bear kills him and they do reach land, if that's what you want to call that, and they find the stones that I guess the last explorers left there. Is that what that
Yeah,
was?
I think, yeah, they said it had been 17 years since somebody had ever come this north, and they weren't even like looking for a passage. And so they were just filling out, writing the name of the ships and when they were there for future explorers.
Yeah. That was cool. I liked what the surgeon said when he was just looking around, and he was the only one kind of like super weirded out to be out there, which is incredibly crazy to be out there. And like I said, he's the audience's eyes, like looking around, like, what is this? What is this place? And he said at one point, I don't think anyone comes here ever.
Yeah, because they were laughing because they're like, "Oh, the Eskimos didn't even fuck with our like statue."
Yeah,
and he's like, "No one comes here for any reason ever."
yeah, it was really a scary place.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bear flipped up their thing, or the Eskimos had to be the bears. They shoot an Eskimo, and the whole thing happens. The hailstorm, that's crazy. Just again, you're fighting nature, and nature doesn't want you to win.
The size of that hail too.
Yeah,
that was the size of our heads. Like,
yeah,
that was legitimately massive.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you're gonna die from this. And then within all that, the bear kills him. They shoot the Eskimo dad and take the Eskimo lady, whose name is Lady Silence, I guess.
Well, I think they just call her Silence because she does. At the end, you kind of see like she's not going to be talking too much.
Yeah, yeah. It was weird. Did they cut their own tongues out?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I think this is where I think it's going to get a little bit more mystical. Like, I think they were guardians or Eskimo people who would watch over the Tanuk. And part of it, like part of their tradition is whoever is like the person who watches over it removes their tongue. I don't know for what reason yet, but the dad did it, and the woman was screaming, "I'm not ready yet. You can't leave me to do this yet." And then she goes to remove her tongue at the end.
Fucking crazy, man.
I feel like at the end of this miniseries, we can just cut that like blurb from you right there, and that'll just be our final review. Fucking crazy, man.
What else can we talk about? It was nice how they showed like the men were playing soccer, and it was like they were kind of just like, all right, we're just gonna ride this out. We'll have some fun. And then at the end, they showed the soccer ball not being played with. Like, game's over. This shit got real.
Yes. That was a huge passage of time in like the first 2 episodes. It was 8 months they've already covered.
Yeah.
So these people have been stuck there for 8 months, and you're going to start getting like stir crazy.
Yeah, once things start going south, they're really going to go south. The only other scene that I think is of note that we should touch on is the flashback to Crozier proposing to Franklin's, I thought, daughter. You said it's his niece.
Yeah, there's like a one-line thing where he says, "I'm your uncle," or she says, I don't have to listen to my uncle." And he's like, "Well, you got to stop leading him on."
Why did they put that in there? Is it only to show that Franklin feels superior to Crozier?
I think part of it's that, and I hope they're just going to explore just little backstories from like all these guys, so that we care about them. Yeah, so that we care about them a little bit more when they eventually bite the dust.
I like that. I also kind of just in my head thought it shows us that he's kind of a romantic, and we know he's into the mysticalness of it all, and the nature's against you, and he's not going to take no for an answer. He's an explorer, and he's asked him a couple times.
Like lends a little credence to the fact that like there's you can tell that at one point these two were very close, and they're not so much anymore.
That's also a really good point. So they have a history. They're not just strangers who are on the same expedition.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So
before we wrap up, where do you think this miniseries is going to go? Like, what do you think's coming?
So I only know a little bit of like the real story, and you're reading the book, so you'll know. I'm guessing. I don't want to know exactly what's going to happen. I just think we're going.
I'm trying to read like as the episodes, trying to keep it in pace so that I don't get like facts confused.
So, something's got to happen with the captains. They got to get into another altercation. I think eventually Crozer's gonna be the man in charge because he just seems smarter and better, and maybe Franklin, like, I don't know, maybe he kills himself, got to go down with a ship or something. I want to see more Eskimo stuff, to be honest. Like, I really am interested in those people.
Yeah, unfortunately, because they're in the middle of nowhere, and if they get Eskimo help, that kind of takes away from it. So I think Lady Silence is going to be our main Eskimo.
I don't need Eskimo help. I just need Eskimos somehow.
Just a side story about the Eskimos.
Yeah, and they're going to start killing each other and dividing, and I don't know. It's going to be
I feel like there's definitely mutinies coming. None of this is from the book, so I'll just say this: I'm only 2 chapters into the book. But the book starts where I think like episode 3 is going to be. So it starts past what we've already seen.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm excited. I think it's interesting. Like I said, just the whole concept is super interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. This is an underutilized period of history, I feel like. Period and location.
What day does this show get released? Wednesdays?
Mondays.
Mondays? Okay.
Yes. So episode 3 is coming out today.
Okay.
So we'll have another episode for you guys sometime in the next week, and then from then on, we'll try to release within a day or 2 of the new episodes.
Yep. Cool. I'm excited. I love shows, and hopefully this can tell, and then we can do more shows in the future.
Yeah.
Miniseries though. You can't get into like an 8-season show.
No, I wouldn't want to do like every episode of It's Always Sunny or something like that.
No, that sucks. All right. Cool.
All right. We'll see you guys next week for episode 3 of The Terror.
And it doesn't have a name yet, but it's probably, there's probably a guy named Murder, and it's named after him.
Maybe.
See ya.